Dorothy Arnold, a wealthy heiress known for her beauty, vanished during a shopping trip on Fifth Avenue. The subsequent search became one of the most costly and enduring mysteries in the nation's history. Born in 1885 in Manhattan, Dorothy Harriet Camilla Arnold was one of 4 children born to Mary and Francis. Her mother hailed from Canada, while her father originated from England. Francis, a Harvard University graduate, rapidly amassed wealth through his partnership in a perfume importation company. The Arnold family was a prominent fixture in America's high society, frequently mingling with New York's wealthiest, including the Rockefellers. Their social standing granted them a coveted spot in the Social Register, a publication that cataloged the most influential families in the United States. Dorothy received a stellar education at the exclusive Veltenskaya School for Girls, displaying early talents in literature and languages. This prompted her decision to pursue higher education at Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania, from which she graduated with honors in 1905, setting her course as a writer. Dorothy, known for her composed demeanor, was not a daring or willful individual. One could easily discern her inclination towards modesty rather than frivolous conduct by simply observing her serene countenance. Literary career. Dorothy returned to her parents' residence at 180 79th Street and settled down to pen a tale. After a couple of months, her creation was complete, and she embarked on the quest to find a magazine willing to publish it. However, every door she knocked on was met with rejection. Dorothy was determined not to rely on her family's wealth and influence to forge a writing career, steadfast in her commitment to establishing herself solely through her talent. Nevertheless, her passion was met with scoffs and derision, even from her own family, who dismissed her aspirations as mere folly. Undeterred by these setbacks, Dorothy found solace in social engagements. Amidst dinners with friends, outings to restaurants and shops, and the attention of suitors, she continued to pursue her writing. By 1910, she had crafted several more short stories and, with unwavering determination, sent them to magazines and publishers. She even secured a post office box for correspondence, concealing her literary pursuits from her family's prying eyes. In November of that year, Dorothy completed her short story, Poinsettia and the Flame, which she considered her finest work. However, it met the same fate as her previous endeavors, rejected by all the publishers to whom she submitted it. This disheartening turn of events led Dorothy to seek refuge in her father's offer to rent her an apartment in Greenwich Village, a neighboring New York City neighborhood, where she could focus on her writing in solitude. Francis Arnold, while not opposed to his daughter's creative pursuits, remained unconvinced of her talent and insisted she should only leave the family home if it was for marriage. He reassured her, claiming that a good writer can create anywhere, and saw this period as a temporary challenge Dorothy would ultimately overcome. The day of disappearance. Approximately a month had passed since Dorothy's unsuccessful attempt to leave her parental abode, leaving her in a somber mood. On December 12, 1910, she resolved to uplift her spirits with a shopping expedition, setting her course for Fifth Avenue. Her mission was to acquire a new evening gown for her sister's impending debutante ball, a ceremony signifying a young woman's readiness to enter upper-class society, and marry. Dorothy had a penchant for exquisite attire, and her means allowed her to indulge this inclination. That day, she adorned herself in a beautifully tailored jacket, a deep blue twill coat, and a sleek pencil skirt that graced her ankles. To complement her ensemble, she carried a spacious black mulberry muff and a satin purse, crowned with a velvet hat adorned by 2 freshly bloomed roses. Around noon, she made a stop at the park in Tilford Confectionery, procuring a selection of chocolates. December 12th presented less than favorable walking conditions, with a mix of snow and rain making the sidewalks perilously slippery. Nevertheless, Dorothy pressed on, covering a distance of approximately 20 blocks, which equated to nearly 3 kilometers, and after an hour, she arrived at Brentano's bookstore. Inside the bookstore, Dorothy acquired a collection of humorous short stories titled Sketches of an Engaged Girl by Emily Calvin Blake. In both instances, store attendants would later recall that Dorothy displayed no signs of unease. On the contrary, her mood appeared elevated. Upon leaving the bookstore, she crossed paths with her friend, Gladys King. Their conversation flowed amicably, revolving around the forthcoming ball. King observed that Dorothy remained as courteous and jovial as ever. While Dorothy wished for a lengthier chat, Gladys expressed her need to join her mother for lunch at the Waldorf Astoria, the renowned restaurant within the opulent hotel. As their conversation drew to a close, Dorothy proposed that her friend take a leisurely stroll through Central Park, but Gladys declined the offer. Around 2 p.m., as they parted ways on 27th Street, Arnold waved farewell to King. It would be the last time anyone laid eyes on the 25-year-old. One intriguing detail worth noting is that when she left her residence, Dorothy informed her mother that she intended to purchase a dress. However, she was not spotted in any of the shops or ateliers where she might have undertaken such shopping. The search begins. That evening, Dorothy's absence at dinner struck an unusual note, as it was not in line with her customary behavior. Concerned, the family initiated discreet inquiries among her friends, cautiously probing if any of them had crossed paths with her on that day. Mary and Frances Arnold were determined to avoid any premature rumors circulating about their daughter's disappearance, and they initially responded to Dorothy's friends by asserting that she had indeed returned home. The following day, convinced of Dorothy's unaccounted absence, the family made the decision to enlist the services of private investigators from the renowned Pinkerton Detective Agency. The investigators arrived promptly and commenced their inquiry by scrutinizing Dorothy's room. To their surprise, everything appeared meticulously organized, her clothing neatly hung in the closet, except for the attire she had worn the previous day. Upon opening a desk drawer, they uncovered a collection of personal letters, consisting of simple, friendly correspondence, some bearing foreign postmarks. Interestingly, the desk held 2 folders filled with materials related to her nascent story, Lotus Leaves, which contained extensive information on transatlantic travel. Their search led them to the fireplace, where they discovered a small pile of charred documents. The original manuscript of the story, Poinsettia and the Flame, was conspicuously absent, and it was presumed to be among the burnt remnants. The detectives, resolute in their pursuit, extended their investigation to encompass the entire circle of the family's acquaintances, medical facilities, morgues, and even correctional institutions, yet there remained no trace of Dorothy. Eventually, after 6 weeks of rigorous inquiry, they advised the family to enlist the assistance of the local police. Press conference. While a circular detailing Dorothy's disappearance had reached the police as early as mid-December, the authorities did not initiate a search until January 24, 1911, adhering firmly to established protocol. During that era, formal searches were typically not conducted without a proper report. The general public became aware of Dorothy's vanishing during a press conference held in Frances Arnold's office on January 25th. This event captured the attention of virtually all of America, igniting widespread curiosity about the mysterious case. People across the world began to see her image reproduced in various publications. Newspapers would report she vanished from one of the world's busiest streets in broad daylight, amid the bustling crowds of men and women who filled the streets of New York City at that very moment. Despite involving the police, Dorothy's father expressed doubts about her well-being, declaring at the press conference, "I am firmly convinced that my daughter was murdered, and I am willing to spare no expense in seeking justice for her." As reporters inquired about Dorothy's suitors, Frances grew visibly agitated, countering, "It is not accurate to claim that I opposed her socializing with young men or discouraged her suitors. I would welcome her interactions with intelligent and accomplished young men of standing. I disapprove of idle young people." Dorothys Secret. The intriguing phrase about men who do nothing piqued the curiosity of reporters, leading them to delve deeper into Dorothy's private life. Soon, they unearthed the individual whom Mr. Arnold likely had in mind. This man was George Griscom Jr., a 42-year-old, plump, balding individual with distinctive sideburns. He resided with his elderly parents in Pittsburgh, just as Frances had pointed out, and indeed, he led a life devoid of gainful employment. George's substantial wealth derived from his affluent parents, with one newspaper even noting that his doting mother continued to buy all his shirts and ties. Nevertheless, George, often referred to as Junior by acquaintances, did experience moments of independence, much like Dorothy. Newspaper reporters discovered that Dorothy had initially met Griscom while they were both students at Bryn Mawr, although their romantic involvement began approximately a year ago. Their relationship appeared to be exceptionally serious, as they were on the verge of announcing their engagement. This revelation startled the public but provided context for Dorothy's desire to relocate to Greenwich Village and rent a discreet mailbox. This arrangement would enable her to see or communicate with her lover discreetly, fully aware that her father would not sanction their relationship. Despite these findings, the police could not implicate Junior in Dorothy's disappearance due to the solidity of his alibi. Numerous witnesses confirmed that he had been in Italy during the time of her vanishing. Versions of what happened. To aid in the resolution of the mystery surrounding Dorothy's disappearance, the Arnolds offered a reward of $5,000, which would be equivalent to nearly $150,000 in today's currency. Regrettably, this reward remained unclaimed. The exact circumstances of the socialite's fate remain shrouded in uncertainty, but several theories have emerged. Let's explore some of the most plausible ones. Suicide. Dorothy harbored dreams of a writing career, yet her submissions were consistently rejected by the magazines she aspired to be published in. The discovery of burned manuscripts in her fireplace, possibly including what could have been her best story, suggests a possible deep depression. Her boyfriend, George Griscom, Jr., considered the theory of suicide resulting from literary failures to be the most credible. Dorothy had communicated her despair to George while he was in Italy, stating, "Come back. McClure's magazine turned me down. Failure haunts me. All I see ahead are endless disappointments in the path of my life." However, one might question why, if she was so determined to become a writer, she did not consider using her family's financial resources as a starting point. Furthermore, at 25 years old, she had a wide array of opportunities available to her in various fields, making her alleged despair over her literary career seem somewhat perplexing. While the case of Dorothy Arnold's disappearance remains a perplexing enigma, these theories offer glimpses into the potential scenarios that could shed light on her unexplained vanishing. Kidnapping and murder. As the Arnolds desperately sought to locate Dorothy, they received 2 ransom notes from individuals claiming to have abducted their daughter. These letters demanded a sum of $5,000 in exchange for Dorothy's safe return home. However, subsequent investigations revealed that all of these ransom letters were fraudulent, designed to exploit the family's anguish. 5 years after Dorothy's disappearance, a man named Edward Glenarus, who happened to be incarcerated in a Rhode Island prison at the time, came forward with a shocking revelation. He asserted that he had been paid $250 to dispose of a woman's body, and this disturbing event had transpired around the same time as Dorothy's vanishing. According to Glenarus, he had shared this grim tale with a prison guard, explaining that he had been hired by an individual known as Little Louis. This Louis bore a striking resemblance to George Griscom Jr., based on Glenarus's description. He told Glenarus that they had initially kidnapped the woman with the intention of demanding a ransom but tragically ended up causing her demise. Louis did not disclose the woman's identity, but she bore a striking resemblance to Dorothy Arnold. One noteworthy detail that caught Glenarus's attention was a signet ring on the woman's finger, a piece of jewelry that Dorothy was known to have worn at the time of her disappearance. Upon hearing Glenarus's account, the police's interest was piqued, but to their astonishment, Glenarus abruptly retracted his statement and, during formal interrogation, claimed to have no knowledge of Dorothy. Despite intensive searches in various locations in Weehawken, New Jersey, the body was never discovered. A botched operation. Another theory that circulated was that Dorothy had become pregnant and sought an abortion, but the procedure proved fatal. In April 1916, this rumor gained fresh momentum when the police conducted a search of an illicit clinic in Bellevue, Pennsylvania, operated by a Dr. Meredith. A Mr. Lutz, who had an office in the same building as the aforementioned clinic, alleged that Dr. Meredith had once confided in him about Dorothy's visit to the clinic. According to Lutz, Dorothy had sought an appointment to terminate an unwanted pregnancy but tragically lost her life during the procedure. He believed that her remains had been cremated in one of the 2 large ovens located in the house's basement. Regrettably, the police lacked any substantial evidence to pursue this account further. Dr. Meredith had maintained no records, and with the passage of years, any potential leads had become futile to pursue. Robbery. Dorothy had approximately $30 in cash on her when she went missing, equivalent to about $800 in today's currency. Given that she was strolling through Central Park in the midst of winter after her lunch, the possibility that she may have been targeted and killed for her money cannot be dismissed. Dorothy's father shared this belief as the most plausible scenario. He even went to the extent of requesting that the Central Park lake be drained. However, this was impractical since the lake was covered in ice during December, making it highly unlikely that Dorothy could be found there. I always believed my daughter was no longer alive. Since I've made this public statement, I've received emails that further reinforce my conviction. I have 2 leads, both of which I've shared with Mr. Whitman, the district attorney. I've given my word not to reveal this evidence, but I am strongly inclined to believe that Dorothy was abducted on 5th Avenue and subsequently met with foul play, Francis revealed. Unfortunately, the specifics of these clues have never been disclosed in any available records, and neither the police nor the media have divulged any details about them. Speculation remains that these leads might have involved forged communication from individuals posing as Dorothy, copying her handwriting sample published in the newspaper. There were even claims of a jeweler in California who purportedly sold an engagement ring to Dorothy, though this information was never substantiated. Approximately 3 months later, the New York Police Department officially halted its investigation into Dorothy's disappearance, concluding that she was deceased. Deputy Commissioner of Police, William Flynn, stated, "The young lady has been missing for 75 days, and during this time, we have not uncovered any significant leads worth pursuing. There is no evidence to suggest a crime has taken place, and it is now treated as a missing person case and nothing more." Conclusions. So, what can we make of all this? It appears plausible that Dorothy might have been targeted for a robbery, considering her clothing and the money she had on her. However, the question that looms is why resort to murder? The motive behind such a drastic act remains unclear, as it seems illogical. While this theory holds more promise than others, it leaves another baffling question in its wake. Where could her body have been concealed, especially in the midst of a bustling city during broad daylight? Dorothy's clandestine relationship with George Griscom Jr., who was abroad in Italy at the time of her disappearance, appears unrelated to her vanishing. Their mutual affection and plans to marry contradict any suspicion of his involvement. Individuals who had seen and conversed with Dorothy in the days leading up to her disappearance attested to her not displaying any signs of suicidal tendencies. On the contrary, she seemed to be making arrangements for the weeks ahead. Over the years, several women bearing a resemblance to Dorothy Arnold or sharing her name were discovered. Innumerable individuals reported to police stations, convinced they had found the long-lost woman. Regrettably, none of these cases led to the real Dorothy Arnold. Francis Arnold passed away in July 1922, and a few years later in 1928, his wife, Mary, followed him. Tragically, neither of them ever learned the fate of their daughter. A noteworthy detail emerges: both parents, prior to their passing, chose to exclude Dorothy from their wills, expressing concerns about potential imposters. We have omitted to provide for our beloved daughter, Dorothy H.C. Arnold, as we believe her to be deceased, and those who impersonate her may seek dishonest enrichment. Remarkably, the Arnold family invested nearly $100,000 in the quest to find their missing daughter, which amounts to roughly $3 million when adjusted for today's exchange rates. Nevertheless, despite the extensive efforts of the family, law enforcement, and everyone involved in the search, Dorothy's disappearance continues to stand as one of New York City's most enigmatic mysteries. I hope you liked this story. Please don't forget to leave a comment sharing with your thoughts below. Give a thumbs up this video, and remember to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more captivating stories. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey, and we'll see you in the next video.